Welcome back to Where Do We Go From Here? I'm your host, Scott Catello. Today we continue our exploration of truth through the lens of Plato's allegory of the cave. In the previous episode, I discussed the topic of confirmation bias, the human tendency to accept information that aligns with our own pre-existing beliefs and to reject information that challenges them. But today we're moving a little deeper because beliefs do not exist in isolation. They exist within communities. They exist within tribes. And most importantly, they exist within identity. Now, you may have guessed it. This is my third episode in my Truth series, and the subject is social identity. The powerful psychological force that shapes not only how we see ourselves, but how we interpret truth itself. It is about in-groups and out-groups. It is about why information from our side feels trustworthy and comforting, while the same information from their side feels a bit suspect. And it is about how truth becomes fragile when loyalty becomes the primary factor. So join me as I attempt to unpack social identity. The human need to belong. Let's first begin with something fundamental. Human beings are social creatures. I've always said that. That's not merely a poetic statement, but it's a neurological fact. Research from Oxford University and other institutions has shown that the human brain processes social belonging as a form of safety. General acceptance activates internal reward systems associated with our own survival. Now, to the brain, belonging is not optional. It's essential. When we align ourselves with a political party, a religious tradition, a cultural movement, or even an online community, we're not simply adopting ideas. We're adopting identity. We're gaining meaning, security, and emotional validation. But identity has a structure. If there's an us, then inevitably there has to be a them, right? And that's where the architecture of distortion begins. In the 1970s, psychologist Henry de conducted what is known as the minimal group experiments. Participants were divided into groups based on trivial distinctions, preferences for abstract paintings, arbitrary labels, even random assignments. The groups had no prior history, no ideology, no reason for conflict, and yet almost immediately favoritism emerged. Participants seemingly rewarded their own group members more generously. They trusted them more readily. They displayed measurable bias, even when presented opportunities where fairness would have really benefited everybody. The implication is this: humans do not require deep ideological divides to form tribes. We simply just require labels. And once labels exist, then perceptions seem to noticeably change. We begin to interpret information not through neutral evaluation, but through identity preservation. The mind shifts from asking, is this accurate, to asking, is this aligned with my own group? In a way, this is a psychological doorway into Plato's cave. When identity overrides evidence. Now let's move from theory to modern reality. Research from Harvard's Misinformation Review indicates that individuals are significantly more likely to trust information when it originates from their own identity group, even when that information is unverified or clearly false. Conversely, information from an opposing group is frequently dismissed, even when supported by a credible evidence. This dynamic explains something we see every day. Two people can watch the same speech, read the same report, examine the same statistics, and yet emerge with an entirely different interpretation. In many cases, the content doesn't or hasn't changed. However, the lens has. Psychologists at Yale have studied what they refer to as identity protective cognition. When factual information threatens an individual's group identity, the brain does not respond as though it has encountered neutral data. It responds as though it has encountered danger. Corrective information can unexpectedly strengthen the original false belief, a phenomenon sometimes called the backfire effect. So, why would this happen? Well, in researching this, to accept the correction may feel like betraying your own tribe. It may start to feel like social isolation, and it may feel like you're standing alone. And the human brain resists isolation far more instinctively than it would to resist error. In Plato's allegory, the prisoners resist the freed individual not because the truth is unclear, but because the truth threatens their shared understanding. Their unity depends on the shadows. Now, in our modern world, political and social unity often depends on narrative alignment. When truth disrupts that alignment, it feels kind of destabilizing. And as a defense, well, it's resisted. Truth becomes less about accuracy and really more about affiliation. Echo chambers and emotional amplification. Now, we must consider how modern systems amplify this tribal instinct. Plato described prisoners chained to a wall, watching shadows projecting before them. Today, our chains are not physical, they're algorithmic. Social media platforms curate content based on engagement. The more we interact with certain viewpoints, the more those viewpoints are presented to us. Our digital environments then become personalized caves. Within these echo chambers, repetition and emotional intensity reinforce group identity. Studies from Stanford and the University of Pennsylvania have demonstrated that emotionally charged content, particularly fear and outrage, spreads more rapidly and is remembered more vividly than neutral information. When a message warns that they are threatening our values, our rights, or our safety, the emotional surge itself increases perceived credibility. And fear enhances cohesion, outrage amplifies sharing, and identity becomes fortified. Political strategists, media personalities, and influencers understand this dynamic. They do not need to persuade with evidence, they merely need to provoke your emotions. Inside such an identity system, disagreement is not treated as intellectual variation, it's treated as betrayal. Instead of one wall of shadows, there are many walls of shadows. Each group faces its own projection. Each group believes it sees clearly, and each group assumes that the others are the ones that are deceived. The tribe of shadows. What then have we uncovered? Well, we have seen that belonging is powerful, identity shapes perception, in group loyalty alters trust, emotion amplifies conviction, and modern technology reinforces the tribal boundaries. Truth does not disappear in this environment, it really becomes filtered through allegiance, filtered through emotion, and filtered through identity. The stronger the attachment to the group, the more fragile the relationship with objective truth can become. Plato's cave was merely not a metaphor for ignorance. It was a metaphor for comfort, for the security of shared illusion. And that comfort is really difficult to relinquish. So we turn to the question that frames my podcast. Where do we go from here? I guess as it relates to social identity, the place to start is with awareness. When you feel immediate agreement because information comes from your side, maybe pause. When you feel immediate rejection because it comes from the other side, well, try pause again. In those pauses, you create space for your own reflection. I think as we move forward by cultivating curiosity rather than certainty, by recognizing that no political party, ideology, social movement, or anyone for that matter, possesses a monopoly on truth. By understanding that the other side consists of human beings navigating their own interpretations of reality. Leaving the cave does not require abandoning your community. It requires elevating truth above faction. It requires the humility to say, maybe my group is wrong. And it requires the courage to examine uncomfortable evidence. And it requires the discipline to value accuracy over applause or likes. Truth should not be a possession. It should be a pursuit for all of us. And sometimes pursuing truth means standing slightly apart from your tribe, not in hostility, but in clarity. Thank you for joining me today on Where Do We Go From Here with Scott Catello. And if you found this episode helpful, then please share it with your friends and colleagues and definitely send me your thoughts or questions. I'd love to hear what you thought about this episode. If you like the content, remember to hit the follow, like, or subscribe button on your favorite listening platform as this podcast is growing for you guys. And keep the show ideas coming, or if you have a series idea, I would love to hear that as well at catelloscott@gmail.com. And please tune back for my next Truth Series episode where I'll examine the powerful force within the cave. Not identity this time, but repetition. Because without tribal identity, something becomes believable when it's heard often enough. Together, we will explore the psychological phenomenon that makes repeated shadows feel real and how familiarity can quietly replace truth. Till next time.